Well, good afternoon, Rolling Hills Baptist Church, and whoever else has joined in. It is the moment that you've been waiting for since this time last week. It is Encouragement Thursday, and we hope you've had a blessed week thus far, and that you have been fixing your eyes on Jesus every step of the way. He is an incredible Savior, and this time of year, so often we celebrate, we think about the birth, we think about Him coming to this earth, and what a blessing that is. But in the process of that, I am blessed right now to be back in a place that I'm familiar with, and that is the youth room, right at the place where I was blessed to share sometimes before the students, and so I'm glad to be in here. I'm glad to share with you. One of the things that really has impressed me in life is the folks that have been willing to travel the miles to worship the King. And I can remember when I was little, when I was a young boy growing up in church, there was this one guy that would walk to church every week. I think his name was Alvy Chrisman. And since then he's went home to be with the Lord, I believe, but he would walk every week to church. And I would see him as a young boy coming down the road walking to church. And I would think to myself now, I'm like, how many of us would have that diligence, that desire to worship so much that we would be willing to walk? You know, a lot of times it's even hard for us to get motivated at times to drive, right? But he would walk every week, and it just left an impression on me all those years ago. And then in 2005, I was blessed to be in Africa for a class/mission trip. And in Africa, there was like one church in the village, or a main church, and there would be people that would travel for miles, some of them seemingly, just to be at church and to worship the King. And they came just to worship. And I was like, man, that is such a surrender, such a life that desires to just worship Jesus, that sees the greatness of who He is and desires to worship Him for that. And in like fashion, one of the in the birth account and in that time frame, I think about the wise men, because the wise men, in the same respect, were willing to travel large amounts of miles to go out of their comfort zone, to go out of their context, and just to arrive to worship. And I love it. In Matthew chapter 2, verse 1 and 2, it says this: "Now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, Magi from the east arrived in Jerusalem, saying, 'Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we saw his star in the east and have come to worship him.'" And in verse 11, and coming into the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother, and they fell to the ground and worshipped him. Then opening their treasures, they presented unto him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And I shared this last night after our caroling as a devotion, because it just impresses upon me the amazing component to just who Jesus is. He was born a child, but He was a king when He came. He is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And these wise men, they were like, we want to go for no other reason, not to receive anything for ourselves, but just to give our worship, just to present our gifts to the one that is worthy of these things, to the King that would come down like no other king would ever do, and give His life a ransom for many. And I think that's such an amazing testimony and a great challenge for you and I. When we think about this time of year, when we think about worship, are we worshiping just because He's worthy? Are we worshiping because we recognize that He's a king? Are we willing to go the distance, to travel the miles, to have that diligent pursuit of a Savior that we know is just worthy, and we want to offer everything to Him? And today, I think the encouragement for us is this, is that even though He was born as a child, He was still a king. We know that He came to die. He came to pay our price. He is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So when we come into this Christmas time, it is a great time to celebrate Jesus. But it's also a great time to celebrate Jesus every other day of the year, because He still came as King. He still was willing to suffer and die for you and me, and He's still worthy of our worship and diligent pursuit because He is the King. And so I was so encouraged. I've been so encouraged in my life by people that are willing to go the distance to get to Jesus just because they know He's worthy. And so I want you to know today that wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, whatever's going on, that there is a Savior who is the King and is worthy of your worship and praise. He is faithful.
He is God's Son. He is the Redeemer, the Rescuer, the Intercessor. He is everything that we need. And as we go to Him, let's go to Him with just this understanding that He is worthy of everything that we can offer. Not go to Him just because we think He can do good things for us. He's done everything for us. But just go to Him because He's the worthy Savior and King. And it's an encouragement to me to know that we serve a Savior that loves us so much that even though He was King, He was still coming to die because we needed rescued. And that's the Savior that we serve. So wherever you find yourself at, know that we serve an incredible Savior. He is the King, but He is also our rescuer. And He came to give His life a ransom for us all so that we could have life. So I hope that encourages you today. Let's continue in our diligent pursuit for Him and follow the example that really the wise men set in saying, hey, we just want to be at your feet because you're worthy. What a Savior we serve. I hope that you can fix your eyes on Him. I hope you have a great day in the Lord and look forward to seeing you again on Sunday and worshiping together.